Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, and let's talk about the astrology of the day. And I'm also going to introduce you to the next gene key that Venus will be sitting at, or the next gate that Venus will be sitting at, and that is the gate 44. And I say introduction because I have quite a bit of other information to give you this morning. So I hope everybody had a good day yesterday. It was nice to see the sun. We've had quite a bit of rain over the last week. And I had an opportunity to just sit outside in the warmth of the day. And I love every minute of doing that. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Cindy. It's good to see you ladies out there today. So we are going to kind of pick up where we left off yesterday. I just have to make sure I have the right chart in front of me. It's so funny. I have like 15 charts sitting here looking at me. Let's start talking about the day today and what we can expect. And then we'll go back to the autumn equinox chart, because yesterday I left you with the intense involvement of the T-square and the Grand Cross that will be occurring with that particular day. And today I want to tell you about the more ease and flowing aspects that are happening, or configurations that are happening. So then after that, we'll do the introduction to the gene key 44, and then we'll be done for today. All right. So today the moon is in Capricorn, the sign of business and the military and being organized and deliberate in the actions that we're taking. And when the moon goes through Capricorn, of course, it means it's going to come in contact with Pluto. And that happens today, a conjunction with Pluto a little bit later in the day. But while that can normally be kind of possible explosions of emotion, we have two other very nice kind of aspects happening that can create some ease and flow. That is a sextile to Neptune and to Jupiter. So we have the possibility that there may be something big and earth-shaking moving through your day or moving through your world, but at the same time, the ability to use some of the energies of Jupiter and Neptune to get past it. So you don't have to succumb to the powerful undercurrents that you might be experiencing or that you might be sensing, because you actually can tap into Jupiter's luck, expansion, consciousness increasing, and also Neptune's higher connection to spirit. So it is overall a good day, right? It's not a bad day. Good morning, Colleen McSpirit. Love your name. Good morning, Mimi. And it's good to see everyone out there. Good morning, Joanne. I see you hiding in the background. Wesley. Whoo-hoo. Hi, Wesley. And anyway, welcome to all of you, whether you're here where I can see you or whether you're in the background just watching. Doesn't matter, right? You're here and you're hearing some really good stuff. So the biggest news today is that we have the exact square challenge, think 90-degree angle, think challenge, between Mars, the planet of action and conflict and motion forward, and the planet Uranus, unexpected, awakener, disturber of the peace, right? So we have two major configurations or two major planets in a sort of conflicting bit of aspect. It's not like this is the first time this has happened either. If I remember correctly, and I actually had to go looking for the dates, this has happened to us already twice, where we've had this kind of day, where we've had this kind of run of days. First time this happened was when Mars first entered the retrograde zone in Aquarius, and that was back on May 16th. And then it happened again when it retrograded back into the same position, and that was on August 1st. And now that Mars is forward again, it is moving beyond this square to Uranus. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen again, because it will, right? But it won't happen again for a while. So what can we expect here? This kind of transit often creates in us the feeling or the need to have to force things, or to try to force things, to try to make it happen, right? When I'm working with my clients, I often say it's when we are trying to push the river. And by that, I always mean that you're swimming upstream, right? Which means that the river's flow is moving the opposite direction. It makes it harder for you to accomplish anything. It makes it more likely that you're pushing into the wrong direction, or else you would be in the flow, right? So, a part of the energy that we're sitting with right now is our wanting to force changes instead of going with the flow. So, why not sit back and just relax and allow the current to move you somewhere, right? Right now, it feels like we have zero patience for anything that gets in our way. And that might mean a limitation, a thought, a person, um, a block of some sort, right? Where you've been pushing ahead, and now suddenly everything comes to a stop. And that can cause you to become maybe more impulsive than necessary, than need be, or that we should ever be, right? This is not the time for us to push that, to become impatient. I know I always say this. When making decisions, you need to follow your type and your strategy, because it is your type and your strategy in human design that gives you the tools to be able to make good decisions. So for those of you out there who are my projectors, that means you wait for the invitation. Life invites you in. And while you're waiting for that invitation, you are Buddha. You are sitting and in receipt of peace and calm, living your life, doing whatever is fun and exciting for you while you're waiting for the next big invitation. If you're my generators and manifesting generators, you are waiting for something in your outer world for you to respond to. You are not acting from up here, ever, 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 ever. You're not taking that idea and enacting it, right? Without something in your outer world that matches that. If you're a manifester, of course, the rules are different for you. If you're a manifester, you're designed to do things that come from your creative impulses, and you follow your authority in doing that. If you're emotionally defined, you may have to wait for a while just to make sure that it feels good to you. If you are ego driven, then it is about your will and thy will be done kind of thing here. And it is you putting your will into play. Sometimes you are splenic defined, which means it's your intuition that tells you in the moment, this is what I'm going to do. If you are a reflector, of course, you can only see through the reflection of people in your life what it is that you're meant to do. And some of you who are projectors don't have authority either. I know my son is out there listening, and Debbie, you're out there listening. Both of you have what is called self-projected awareness. That means that sometimes what you're hearing yourself say out loud as you're talking to other people is your truth and is the way that you're meant to go. So everybody's a little bit different in how they express their authority. But you got to go back to what you've learned about yourself through your type and your strategy and your authority in order to make good decisions during these kinds of transits, right? This is where we can weave astrology and human design and even the gene keys together into a real great tool for being able to understand who you are and what your path is forward. So to avoid becoming impulsive, give yourself that breath, that in breath and that out breath, and go back to what it is that your type, strategy, and authority is. Okay. And if you don't know what your type, strategy, and authority is, you might be new here this morning. Maybe you've forgotten. Maybe you've not had a full human design reading, so we've never really fully discussed it with you. Go to my website, www.living-astrology.com. You'll find information there. If you need your human design chart, you can request it there. And then when I go into these conversations about your type, strategy, and authority, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So Great day for us to learn that lesson, right? I know sometimes we feel like everything is kind of stuck. Good morning, Jan. Good morning, Tina. That we feel like everything is sort of like in this place where I've felt like this many times recently, even, and I'm wondering if it's just something that's going on in my own chart. Because, of course, I don't really look at my own chart. Um, and I really should. But sometimes I feel like that racehorse right behind the gate, and I'm just chomping at the bit. That's where we get that saying, by the way, where the horse is just like ready to go and is chomping at the bit in its mouth because it wants to be given its head and given its freedom to run, the power in its body to run. But there's something to be said about waiting for the right timing. If you go too soon, you could become disqualified as the racehorse, right? If there's something that happens that way. So it is always important for us to consider that there may be something operating in higher awareness than us that is dictating time. Remember Monday when we pulled the card, we got the card TikTok. And one of the main messages in that particular card for us this week was about divine timing, and that is following your type, strategy, and authority. Of course, now I'm talking human design, but that will always ensure that you're in the right time, right place, right people, right opportunities. And that goes right along with that TikTok card that we had for us for this particular week. So don't jump the gun and jump out into things without having your correct strategy in place. It'll save you. It'll save you time. It'll save you anguish when you realize that you did the wrong thing. So many times I've wanted to do things, and I only by the grace of God have I held myself in check by knowing my human design. And that means the times when I start getting down on myself and I want to go get a job, right? I want to quit what I'm doing and I want to get a job. By the way, quitting is the biggest negative for manifesting generators and generators. You quit too soon, right? You quit too soon. I've done that before, been there, done that, not doing it again. It is better for you to sit in your pity potty than to make changes without something in your outer world to respond to if you're a generator or manifesting generator. Cindy saying, manifesting generator, I am all over the place. I most certainly did get disqualified all the time. Oh, Cindy, I can so understand exactly what you're talking about. Um, our manifesting generators are a bit of the spaghetti throwers, right? You throw the pasta out there to see what sticks. If it's done, if it sticks, then it's done. And in the gene keys and in human design, if it sticks, then that must be my direction, right? That must be what I do next. So manifesting generators, you are a little bit like that, right? You are often juggling many different things, many different opportunities are coming up. The qualifier and the quantifier is that it must be something that you're responding to in your outer world, not something that came up from up here. And two, it must be something that you inform others that you're going to do, kind of clearing the way for yourself to be able to do what it is that you want to do. And then, of course, following your authority, whatever that is. So you have three things, right? You must have something in your outer world that you're responding to. You must inform people that will be affected by your decisions, that you're about to change direction or you're going to make a change of some sort. And three, follow your authority, whatever that is, because it will also help you decide if this is the correct thing for you to do. So I feel sometimes for my manifesting generators because so many things can come at them at one time and it's hard for them to figure out which one should I go to. Notice I use the word it's hard for them to figure it out because that's a process of the head, and the head is not the place where you make the decisions from. So get back into your body, get down below the throat into your authority. All right, let's see what people are saying here. That's a great way to describe us, Colleen says, but what sticks isn't what I always want to stick Oh, yes, that can be true. But because we can't always see what the divine plan is, it's a possibility that it is the leading edge of something more to come. So we have to be aware of that and be willing to wait, to be patient. My manifesting generators are not patient. I think my generators have more patience than my manifesting generators do. In fact, I know that's to be the case, right? Because there's so much that a manifesting generator can be doing, and they're juggling all the time, and they want to skip steps, and they are designed to be able to do that. They can skip steps, but it can make for a really big mess when everything comes crashing down. So you have to be careful what you get into. Uh, Tina saying splenic generator, trust my gut. Absolutely. If you're a generator and you have spleen or splenic authority, and by the way, on your human design chart, let's see if I have, no, I don't have one like that here. Um, on your human design chart, at the very bottom, it will say inner authority. And that's where you're going to find what kind of authority you have. Some of you, it's going to say no authority. Some of you, it's going to say splenic awareness generated. Some, it's going to say splenic projected awareness. It's going to say different things for different people, but that's where you find it. So if you are a splenic generator, the first rule is you always wait for something in your outer world to respond to. Once you have something to respond to that's showing up in your outer world, your spleen is already in response to that. It is already saying, yeah, I want that. Or no, I don't want that, in the moment. And it doesn't come back. It doesn't keep coming back at you and nagging at you to do this, do this, do this. Not happening. And there is where the problem can happen for you people that are splenic generators or splenic projectors. Even you expect perhaps that, like, did I hear that correctly? Is that really what I'm supposed to do? Because then if you do that, if you discount what your gut says in the moment, then what happens is you've now gotten into your head, and now your head is chattering at you. You're trying to figure out, you're in the realm of God, right? You are in the how, the where, the when, the can you prove it. Those are the things that are going to start to drive you crazy. And then you'll start that process of, I got to write the pros and the cons. There's nobody here that writes the pros and cons. I'm sorry. There isn't any use in that except to satisfy your mind. But even so, you do not make the decision from that. You don't. Those are things you've been taught in school, in college, from growing up with family. Those are called conditioned responses. So when you find yourself needing to sit down with a piece of paper and write out the pros and the cons for something, you are in your head. You are in your ajna, more specifically. And the ajna has awareness, but it is not a motor. It has no energy, and it has no decision-making power. That's pretty amazing, don't you think? Because we have so defaulted to our minds that we automatically, it's like auto magic, right? Oh, I'll just go to my mind and I will, list everything. But then you find yourself doing things that are out of the realm of your specific authority. The mind is not your authority. It has no authority. So the star sign Cancer, do they have problems with the stomach? Oh, yes, they do. Yes. And there are other causes of stomach issues as well. A lot of times generators who are emotionally defined or manifesting, anybody really who has emotional definition can have stomach issues. And that is often when you are in the depths of your emotional wave and you are contemplating doing things outside of what is correct for you to do. So it is sort of a call from your body that something's not right, that you're not assimilating something properly, i.e. not digesting something properly, or that there's anxiety And anxiety is often a tell. When those of you, raise your hand out there if you have anxiety or you think that you're depressed, because I can almost guarantee you that all of that comes when we get into our heads, right? When your head begins chattering at you, and then that gets you out of your body. There's just so much. I think we started to talk about this a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, about the stomach brain, and that how many more neural pathways there are going from the stomach to the brain than there are going from the brain to the stomach, or down to the digestive system, to the, intestines, stomach area. And the reason is that the true authority really comes from the stomach brain. And it is only our conditioning that has us really believing in the power of the mind to make those decisions, right? So, um, I'm you guys have really good questions and comments this morning. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Um, Good morning, Londa. I didn't see you. Let's see. Tina says, has anyone noticed that the end of eclipse season and the planets moving forward has produced a rush of progress? As it should, right? The fact that we had a preponderance of planets in retrograde, and that we had eclipses that are changing our course, opening and closing doors, if you will, portals opening, portals closing. It ended up being something that stopped our forward progress. But now that, the planets have changed, that we're out of that eclipse window for the time being anyway, that we have ability to move forward. However, moving forward should also always be done according to type, strategy, and authority, Tina. And of course, you guys hear me say that all the time. Mimi, manifesting generator, took all morning to sort through materials to figure out what to make today, and had to slow way down to find the cool buttons I knew I had stashed. Now past the frustration of making a decision. Right. Manifesting generators, you almost have to consciously convince yourself to slow down, because sometimes what's happening is you're missing the obvious in your speed to move on. You're missing the obvious. But it's okay, because you're technically defined to skip steps. But what happens when you realize that you skipped a step and you need to go backwards is that then you have to go back, and you have to rework a step. And I always like to tell people, equate a manifesting generator to the math class. What I'm trying to think, whether it was algebra or geometry, maybe it was pre-calculus or calculus, where you had to show your work. And if you didn't show your work, then you didn't get the grade, or you didn't get all the points for that particular problem. And the manifesting generators want to skip ahead, right? In the tortoise and the hare race, the Aesop's fable about the tortoise and the hare, they are definitely the hares. They jump out ahead, and then maybe later realize, oh, darn it, I missed that spot. I missed that cue. I missed that step, and I need to go back and do it. Where the generators, if you're a true generator, and that means you have no motor to the throat, then you are taking one step at a time, and it feels more plodding, and it feels more deliberate, right? And you complete the step you're on before the next step gets revealed. So you're more like the tortoise in the fable of the tortoise and the hare. You all end up at the finish line. But the manifesting generator sometimes has had to go back and forth a bit. And the tortoise, if you're doing this the right way, generators, you're doing it one step at a time. And each time you complete a step, the next one is revealed. It's like trying to cross a river, and you have to wait till the next rock. You can't really see, like, how am I going to get across this river? But there are rocks that are exposed. And until you're on one rock, you can't really see where the next safest foothold is. So it's totally different from the manifesting generator. Let's see here. Jan Harley, the star sign can. Oh, yeah, I already answered that. Stomach issues. Yes. Why? Because Cancer is a sign that we know of that's very emotional. It's the moon that rules Cancer, and the moon is moody. The moon is moody. So there's emotional energy there, and the emotional energy changes depending on who you're with, depending on the planets, depending on the environment. depending on the collective, the hive mind, as we talked about yesterday, and the hive heart, as we talked about yesterday. So Cancer's very tapped into that changing face of emotional energy and the moon. Tina says, so how do you reconcile a ton of air planets that want to stay in the head with being true to our type? You know what? That's pretty easy when you think about it, Tina. I know that's kind of funny, right? It seems so easy, and then you have to put it into practice. So if you are someone who has a lot of air energy, that means you have Aquarius air, or you have Gemini air, or you have Libra air, then enjoy your thinking, right? Go into the head and think. There's times for me as a Gemini that I just like the thought of thinking. I might pick a subject. Maybe it's a problem I'm grappling with and I just want to work it through. I'm processing an interaction with someone and I just want to think about it. Enjoy the thinking, enjoy the intellectual qualities of the air signs that you have. Just don't go there to make the decision. Don't go there to make your decisions, but go there to think, compare and contrast and analyze all you like, right? I think, Tina, you have a defined ajna in yours, in your human design, if I remember correctly. I don't think you have I think you have an open head with a defined ajna now that I think about it. Maybe you know, and if so, you can correct me. But either way you look at it, there's no way to stop you from thinking. Right? So why bother trying to stop yourself from thinking? You have the apparatus, so use it. Think. Just don't make your decisions from there. Don't make your decisions from your head. You make your decisions from your gut. And that means that in the moment something was there for you to respond to, Tina, you knew that it was an aha or an But the problem is your mind says, yeah, well, maybe I should think about it. Maybe I should consider it. I want to weigh this one against this one. So go ahead if you want to do that, but recognize that in the immediate moment you had something to respond to, you had your answer. And that's what you default to, that answer. Sort of upside down thinking, don't you think? Okay. So I hope that helps. If you have anything else about that, let me know. So Colleen says anxiety is definitely ego related. Tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that, Colleen, because I don't necessarily see anxiety as ego related so much as I see it as a process of us being out of alignment with the truth of ourselves. And in human design, there is a component in the ego center, and maybe that's what you're talking about, the ego center, the will center, the little red triangle that is just to the right of the uh, identity center. Most of you have it white because most of you are not defined in the ego center. You're open in the will center. And maybe 1/8 of us have it defined. And there is a certain amount of anxiety that comes in through that center as people try to perform and compete in the world, competing for resources, competing in a way that, you end up becoming something that you're not. And there are anxieties that pop up in the emotional center. In the anxiety category, the awareness centers are huge places where we get anxiety. That would be the ajna, the emotional center, and the spleen center. Those, because we have awareness there, but no actionable, except in the emotional center, nothing that we can take action on, right? They're not motors. Jan Harley says, I'm so healthy regarding everything else except your stomach, right? Is that what you're saying, Jan? Because I think you asked the question about the stomach. And this is really good. I'm going to show this comment. Natasha says, one of my most used mantras is, I am digesting life. I am digesting life. There's a lot of maybe some of the anxiety that you're all feeling right now. Ooh, hoo, hoo. This makes perfect sense to me. Is that remember last week I told you that Jupiter had moved out of the gate 1, which was about the search for life purpose, and into the gate 43, which is now breakthrough, epiphany, aha, brilliance, genius, etc. But it sits at the tip of the ajna, and that is awareness of this keen idea, of this brilliance, of this genius that you want to share and get it out into the world. But maybe the path hasn't been revealed yet, right? The connection down to 23, which would put it at the throat and then it could be manifested, isn't there for you yet, right? That may mean that you haven't had something in your outer world to respond to. It may mean you haven't, if you're a projector, may mean you haven't received the invitation yet. So lots of ways that this can be showing up. But when you have that brilliant aha and that thing that you want to do, like I've had a couple of them over the last few days. I had big things show up in my outer world over the last couple of days, but I haven't had anything outside of me to respond to yet, except for one thing. And and it's funny because it's the one thing that I really don't know how to do or don't know how I'm going to put out there. So ironic, isn't it? Right? The one thing that you have to respond to, which means for me as a generator, it's what I'm supposed to do. Or at least if my emotional body gets on board with that, and it has, but now I don't know what to do with it. It's like some big game, right? That the universe is playing some joke, but it really isn't. It is just that remember the card, tick-tock, divine timing, not my timing, divine timing. When it's ready, it will be there. It is allowing yourself to be okay with that. That reduces the anxiety, that overthinking that the mental awareness in the ajna can drive you to. Right. So you've got to be learning patience and being okay with where you are, that everything will happen in its right and perfect time. Mimi, LOL, spot on about the manifesting generator. Math and me, not a favorite. It reminds me of, I think I had 2 kids that were manifesting no, one daughter is a manifesting generator. And, what I would hear from her teachers is that she would, always, skip steps. She would drive me crazy. She would come home and tell me she already had her homework done, that she did it while she was waiting for the bus, or that she did it in class. And I'm like, you're supposed to be paying attention in class, not doing your homework. But she's a manifesting generator. So she's out of the gate, right? And she's already doing all the stuff, because she has better things to do with her time as a teenager. But it's that ability that they have to jump out and to skip those steps that I can't do as a generator. I have to take that one step in front of the other. That drives me crazy. Tina, I had a major stress dream last night. Woke up sweating and wheezing. Ooh, sigh. Numerology today, it's an 11 day. So dealing with a master number energy, nervous energy. Absolutely. 11 about illumination, right? In a way, slowing down to be able to take in whatever it is that's being revealed to you. Good morning, Kristen. And being able to slow your roll and get out of your head so that things can be put in their proper perspective. Peggy, good morning. Jan, always worrying about my family. Worry is a waste of your time and your energy. I do it all the time, so I should be listening to myself, but it is totally a waste of your energy and a waste of your time. Why? Because worrying is a function of the head, and worrying puts you in a position of feeling energy in your body, anxiety, that isn't yours to deal with, right? Worrying. When you remember when we were talking about being in the now? If you're worrying, you're in the future. And, or if you are often in anxiety, it is because you are reliving something from the past. You're not in this present moment. Because in this present moment, I'm sitting here absolutely perfect and fine. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that are going to happen down the road of the day or the week that I want to, with my mind, get into anxiety about or worry over. But right here in this moment, I'm fine. And that's what we always have to remember. You only breathe in this moment. There's only life right here, right this now, right here. So the more presence that you can bring to every moment of your day, the less energy that you devote to worrying, right? So if you find yourself in a worrying situation or, fretting about things that haven't yet come to pass, that may never come to pass, then you're not in your body. You're not in this moment, right? So it's a reminder, a call for you to come back and be here now. Okay. Let me check. Oh, Tina, yes, defined upper triangles. So you have a defined head and a defined ajna. Um, so when you look at your charts, if you have a defined head and ajna or a defined ajna, you will never have a defined head without a defined ajna. The only way the head can become defined is by a connection to the ajna. But you can have both centers defined, you can have just the ajna defined, or you can have both of them open. So, whatever configuration you have, it's important for you to understand how those two centers work against you when you allow them to be the power behind what you do. Okay. When I get my head too much, I have fear and I get anxiety. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the head, there is a part of us that really wants to know the answers. And if you happen to have gate 4 on a defined ajna but an open head, there's this anxiety always about finding the right answer. And really what you have to understand is, yeah, so what? An answer pops up. It may not be the right answer. It could be the right answer. I don't know until I run it through my authority. It's all about the authority. It really comes from living and breathing your type, your strategy, and your authority. Knowing those three things, those are those three keys to unlocking the power in your human design, the power for you to live your life authentically, to live your life with authority. The three keys: type, strategy, authority. So, I mean, and the only way to really understand that, I mean, the true way for you to understand this is, of course, to have a reading and have somebody point out to you those obvious things that you may be missing. The other way for you to do it is a self-study, right? Being really aware of what it is that these centers mean. And that's what I'm really working on in depth for you all right now anyway, is taking each of those centers and taking it to depth. It's going to take me a while to do that because there's 9 centers. And I haven't decided yet if I want to drip them like one center at a time. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. We'll see what my authority, my decision-making apparatus says for me in that. Anyway, good morning, Ginger. Good morning, Gail. Good to see you girls out there. So if you have any other questions about that, you can put them there in the chat and I will address them later. Maybe before the show is over here this morning. Probably not, because we're already at 8:45 and I haven't really gotten to what I really wanted to tell you this morning, or at least introduce you to. Or you can reach out to my email address, which reminds me, I've got to remember I have this email address. It is livingastrology111@gmail.com. Or if you happen to already have been a client of mine, you probably have my regular email address. Feel free to email me questions, etc. All right. So we are headed into a new Venus gate as we move into later on in the week. And let's see, which one do I want to go to? I think I'm going to do the Gene Key 44. Tomorrow morning, we will talk more about the things I wanted to share with you about the equinox, because Gene Key 44 is going to pop up in our field sooner than the equinox. So I think this is the more important piece to bring out. So Venus, recall, is sitting at all of the different gates of the spleen over the next several months. And she's in preparation right now for her eventual retrograde motion that happens on October 5th. And then after that, she will come backwards over all of the gates that we have been talking about. So we've gone through a lot of the gates already of the spleen, which all can double up as fear energy, as paralysis points in your chart, in your human design. So now we move to the gene key 44, or the gate 44, which in gene keys is called the gate of karmic relationships. And here's something interesting, and I'm going to throw it out to you, but I don't quite yet know what this all means, but I will be looking into this because I know you're all going to have questions about it. It is on the codon ring of the ring of the Illuminati. And I know we have a sort of negative conspiracy theory feeling about the Illuminati. And I want you to remain open about that for right now until I can find us more information about what does that really mean. When you take the word Illuminati, it means the illuminated ones, the enlightened ones. So I suspect that it has more to do with that than any group of people that we've attached conspiracy theories to or anything like that. In the gene key 44, the three levels, the shadow is interference. The gift is teamwork. And introducing a new word to you, the highest expression is synarchy. Syn meaning together, and archy meaning a structure, a form. So kind of working together, teamwork to the nth degree, perhaps. So we'll be discovering more about what that word means as we look at the Siddhi later on in the week. So when we start working with the gate 44 or gene key 44, we are working with an energy of patterns. And patterns brings up the word fractal for us. And a fractal is really a repetition of patterns when seen holographically. Let me unpack some of that for us. So when we look at a pattern, if we start looking deeper and deeper and deeper into the pattern, like if we had a microscope, right, and we could see this pattern, and then we could get smaller and smaller and smaller, what we would see in a fractal is the repeating of a pattern. Wherever you go in the image, it is the same, right? The same lines, the same symmetry, the same pattern shows up. So there is such a thing in human design as a human fractal. Human fractal. In relationships, we might call this karmic ties, right? So where the people that you are in relationship with become a sort of karmic tie, that something has been agreed upon. There's an evolution energy, an ancestral connection that you agree to come together, and you're collectively working on a specific fractal. Maybe you're working on the fractal of poverty, or maybe you're working on the fractal of prosperity. All different types of fractal energies that a lineage can be working on. And in that, then every person that you meet in your life that you get into a relationship with is a part of this fractal pattern of your destiny. Anybody having problems with this at all? Questions? I'll look over there again in a minute. So the fractal images show repeating patterns, right? Holographic lines and patterns that repeat. Wherever you go in the image, the fractal repeats infinitely. Like if we could go down to the infinitesimal, you would see the same fractal. So in the cosmic geometry then of human relationships, we see the same thing. You will always draw relationships to you that teach you exactly what you need to know in order to evolve your current awareness or your current consciousness. Think about that for a minute. Let me say that again. You will always draw relationships to you that teach you exactly what you need to know in order to evolve your current awareness and consciousness. Wow. Meaning that those people closest to you, they hold the keys and the secret to your destiny and to you living your life purpose, your higher life purpose, no less, right? They're holding the keys for you in your evolution. And as you learn from each of the relationships, from each of the people that you have in your life, and master those lessons, the frequency changes. The frequency increases and it heightens, and you begin to attract people that are in a higher state of awareness or consciousness, right? Because people with more awareness can come in when you have more awareness. So the fundamental um, pattern of your relationships change. And you can always tell when this is happening in your life when you note the quality of the people changing in your life, right? The quality of your relationships changing in your life. So, and I don't mean this in a way that means that you're better than anybody else, right? This is not about hierarchy or about I'm better than you or ego or anything like that. This is the spleen, right? This is the spleen. So what we see here in general terms in human design, this is a fear of the past repeating itself, right? So let's say you had a nasty breakup, and remember, these patterns repeat. Have you ever noticed in your life that you attract the same kind of people, but you expect a new a new result, right? And then that relationship blows up, and you're like, "What the heck? Why do I keep, attracting these people?" But those people are being attracted to you simply because you haven't yet mastered the lesson. So we have to do some of that contemplation. That's what the Gene Keys is all about. This contemplation of these relationships. Look at the best relationships in your life, and they are reflecting to you those things that you have successfully mastered. Look at the worst relationships in your life, or let's say the most conflictive, confrontational relationships in your life, and those people are reflecting to you the things that you still need to learn and master. Right? Cindy's saying it makes so much sense. Gail, wow, this all makes sense. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. Right. And in that, then you can really look and in human design, often we see the patterns repeat themselves in your chart. So, for example, if I see that someone's a teacher, I'm not going to see it in just one place. I'm going to find it it's like written across the chart, right? If you're an artist, I'm going to see that written across the chart. If you're here to, whatever it is, the lesson that you're here to learn, it's going to be written across your chart, right? Mine is about acceptance and limitation, acceptance of limitation, boundaries. Yuck. It's everywhere in my chart. So for a while in my own personal life, I was facing a lot of times things where I had gone way beyond a boundary, where I've become the doormat. And I had to keep looking at at first, I did not know. I did not see it at all. People, when I was 18 years old when I first learned numerology. And so the first thing you always calculate is your life path, right? And my life path was a 6 and 33-6 nonetheless. And one of the negative sides of that 6 is about, being used and abused, or being a doormat. No boundaries, right? Where do I start and where do I end and you begin? That line completely blurred for me, but I didn't see that. So I kept attracting to me relationships where people were always taking advantage of me, until one day I had to stop and go, whoa, what am I doing? And it still happens to me. The difference is now I'm more aware of the fractal. I'm more aware of the pattern. It doesn't mean I've completely mastered it yet. Otherwise, those kinds of people wouldn't show up in my field. But that's how it shows up for me. It might show up in you in different ways through different people, but there's a theme. I would bet you could all find a theme that runs through those most confrontational relationships that you have. And what does that mean? right? What does that mean for you? Let's see here. Tina's a 33-6. Woohoo! No wonder you and I get along. Cindy, hold on here. I got to bring this up. At this age, I wonder if this is going to take my whole life to master. I really need to wake up. LOL. Where is it at on the human design chart? My life path is a 7. Honey, it's not any one place in your human design chart. It's all throughout your chart, right? It's all throughout your chart. And you're often going to find it most critically in Saturn, wherever Saturn is in your chart. And because Saturn in your chart is in your life purpose is all about your biggest lessons, right? Your biggest lessons. In the gene keys, it's in the Venus sequence. Well, let me show you something in the gene keys here really quickly. So I remember I had most of you request your human design hologram or your gene keys hologenetic profile, right? And if you got yours, it looks something like this, right? Bunch of bubbles or circles. And you see these red places, right? This one, it involves your purpose. It involves these 4 places here. This is part of the Venus sequence. The Venus sequence is made up of, you might recall these words, the IQ, the EQ, the SQ, right? Those 3 times, those 3 phases of your life. One was the physical energy, the template that was being laid down, the IQ, the mental, and the EQ, the emotional. They're all part of the Venus sequence. And of course, there's also this piece that's called the attraction. And the attraction is an interesting part of the Venus sequence because it's exactly what I'm talking about. It is, what is it that you're attracting to you? What kind of fractal is attracted to you? What kind of people show up in your life? And at the very bottom of that is your purpose, right? Purpose, right here. It's a part of all 3. It's a part of the Pearl, it's a part of the Venus sequence, and it's a part of the I forgot what the first one's called. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's your incarnation cross. But in the gene keys, it's called something else. So we have right here, the key is right here for you. And in contemplating the Venus sequence, you can really come to know what it is that that you're working on. Debbie says, have I gotten my bubble thingy? I don't know, Debbie. What you need to do is you need to go to the gene keys. I'll repost it. I'm going to make a note to myself. Repost link. Okay. Okay. So I'll repost that link after I get done this morning. And you can get your bubble thingy, right? All you do is put in your birth information, just like if you were requesting a chart from me, right? You just request this and it pops up on your screen, and I would say print it. And, I'm not quite finished with this ambassador training, but when I am, you can bet that we're going to go deeper than deep into the gene keys because it holds so much depth. And it's funny because depth is so important right now, right? Getting to the deeper meaning of everything, the deeper cause, the fractal. Why am I attracting this kind of person or this kind of experience to my life? Why would you want to do that? Because it is your responsibility to do that. Right? You're not the victim of all of these relationships that crash and burn, or these people that take and abuse you or use and abuse you, who take advantage of you, etc. It is your responsibility to dig in and look at that and see what it means for you. Right? Your responsibility. And there's something in you that gets released when you're willing to do that. Right? It's almost like magic, just by even being willing to go there and look at it, that it sort of just sends out that energy and it moves away. And then the next time it comes up, you have this awareness and you observe it and you see it and you're like, oh, I remember you. Right? I remember that. So now I don't need to let go of my boundary. I don't need to overflow or get into fear or whatever else, allow you to abuse me or use me. Everything, every relationship in your life holds a key for you. I had a big key one time happen in my life, and this was years ago. I think some of you know that I grew up in a foster home and I had an alcoholic mother, foster mother. State never knew that they had placed me into this place. And it wasn't all bad, right? But you take on, for those of you who grew up with alcoholic parents or live with alcoholic spouses, or people in your life, you take on certain behaviors, right? You take on certain, like, I would call it walking on eggshells, right? Because I never really knew what I might be coming home to, or how she was going to be, or what she was going to react to, because it depended on how drunk she was, whether she was drunk or not, or what she'd been drinking, etc., etc. So I learned a certain set of behaviors. Well, imagine my surprise when my 21-year-old son started aiming for becoming an alcoholic, because I'd done a lot of work already on myself around this and recognizing what I was doing. And suddenly, here I am with this son who's living at my house, by the way, at the time. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm placating. I'm walking on eggshells. And it's almost like the little girl Janet was there. And then one day I stopped and I went, whoa, I'm the mother, right? I'm the mother. I'm now the mother. And it is my job to look at my patterns, release my patterns, and take a new look at what it is my behaviors are doing. What am I doing? And I mean to tell you, almost like magic, it released my son even from having to play that role and show it to me. It was pretty amazing. Not that I'm saying that what I did healed him from the potentiality of alcoholism. But what it did do was release me from those behaviors, and I was able to react to what was, or take action in a different way, where I was able to draw that line and say, not in my house, right? Not in my world. And it changed the whole thing. So it's huge, right? When we take responsibility, when we recognize the fractal, when we recognize the theme that's running through our relationships, it allows us to release that other person as well as yourself from continuing the pattern. And I mean, as I described this to you, it sounds like, oh, well, that went really smoothly. Well, no, it didn't. I mean, there were bumps and grinds along the way, certainly. But every day I had to keep looking at it and going, what is this showing me? What is he showing me? Why is this showing up in my world some 40 years later, right? From my initial experience of this as a kid. So it is the relationships in our world that show us our destiny, that show us the keys to our higher evolution. All right. So let's see. Cindy, I am a 58 2. Wait a minute. How can you be a 58 2? 5 plus 8, that's a 13. That would be a 4. So Cindy, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Thank you for reposting. Ginger, hello. Interesting in human design. I have 15 Venus in both design and personality. Flowering, yes. But guess what else 15 is? 15 is often the gate. Well, we call it the gate of rhythm. It's part of the channel of rhythm and flow. But 15 is often the extreme end of that. My husband has this gate hanging, and we call him Chicken Little sometimes. The sky is falling, because he has extreme reactions to things, right? He gets off into the extreme. Gate 15 sometimes can only see one end or the other, right? Unless they have 5, in which time they can be a little more equanimous in equanimity, balance, and harmony. He's also a Libra. So, of course, easy to get out of balance. Okay, Cindy. LOL. Maybe I am misunderstanding. That is the number if in my Saturn sign. Okay, great. That makes sense, right? That because you have a conscious Saturn and an unconscious Saturn, right? So your black Saturn is the 2, and that means that your soul purpose is in learning more about how to be in receiving, right? How to be receptive. And then on the other side, it is gate 58. Gate 58 is the gate of joy, Saturn has been sitting at that gate off and on over the last couple of years, or the last of this year, all of this year so far, up until recently. Now it's at 10, but it was at 58, teaching us all the lesson of the foundation of joy. So your relationships may be showing you things, maybe running the gamut from joyful to totally not joyful, to givers versus takers in your life. So, Cindy, that's how you can sort of look at that. And then I would do the deep dive. I would get my Gene Keys book and I would look at what is that showing me about me. Okay. All right. So tomorrow I will try to take you deeper into 44. We'll start to look at the real shadow of interference. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. Remember, with the whole Mayan calendar and these interference waves coming off of the world tree, the cosmic world tree, and how those interference patterns affect us, take us off our game, but also allow for something new to be generated within us. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow, and also take another look at the equinox, because there are some really good configurations that are happening as well that day. And I want to make sure you understand them. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to write them out there and or email them to me. And I will post that link to get your hologenetic profile again on the page after we get done. All right. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Mwah! Much love to all of you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.